You will now listen to my voice. My voice will help you and guide you still deeper into Europa.
The Dane Lars von Trier shot a strange film, Epidemic, already in 1986.
Da vi optog Epidemic, der havde vi nogle oplevelser med
When shooting Epidemic, we experienced some very strong sensations in the field of hypnosis.
vi arbejdede med reel
We worked with real hypnosis, not only on a fictional level. A hypnotist came to hypnotize some of our actors.
Fantastisk stærk oplevelse.
A very strong experience indeed, which confirmed my opinion as to the importance of the phenomenon.
Min opfattelse af vigtigheden af begrebet.
The hypnosis experts consider that the hypnotized subject is not completely possessed, as may be expected. His or her entire consent is required for the experience to be successful, and in a way, the hypnotized person only carries out his innermost desires. Lars von Trier generates a fascination which helps him to keep his collaborators in a state of dependence and assent, without being directly comparable with the state of hypnosis. Beneath his apparent kindness and heartiness, he controls each move of his following, who are totally devoted to him. This documentary, shot on the set of his latest film, Europa, was done under that kind of influence. Von Trier's first feature, The Element of Crime, was given the Advanced Technical Commission Award at the Cannes Film Festival in 1986. Since then, the Danish director's only objective has been to shoot the two following parts of the trilogy that started with The Element of Crime. Epidemic, the second part, which was also selected at the Cannes Festival in 1987, tells the story of how the first part was written. Europa, von Trier's third feature, is the continuation of the two others.
Og så var det meget vigtigt for mig, at trilogien...
To me, it seemed very important that the trilogy consist of films that weren't much alike. They should have something in common, but it shouldn't be immediately recognizable that it was a trilogy.
What do they have in common then?
They tell almost the same story. It's the story of an idealist who travels into an area hoping to save the people, and it all goes wrong.
Rejser ind i et område i forsøg på at redde menneskene, og så går det af helvede til, ikke?
Europa, which won an award in Cannes in 1991, follows the same pattern as the two preceding films, but this time through a classical thriller plot and in the setting of night trains. A children's book called The Train provided some of the images and inspired the script.
Der er en hel del billeder i den her bog, som
A lot of pictures in this book are found in the film. The approach is a bit different, since it's a very romantic children's book. But an interesting thing is that the book is about a dream of a train.
Den handler altså om en drøm om et tog.
The second idea behind the film is a technical postulate. Von Trier decided to shoot the scenery or background of the images independently of the foreground, and then mix the two different levels to obtain the final result. For instance, the exteriors shot on location in Poland and the actors, shot in the studios in Denmark, had to be superimposed. Of course, a script like this prevented any improvising on the set. Each shot had to be defined in advance with an extreme preciseness, so that the images would be correctly superimposed in the laboratory or in the studio. The storyboard described each shot in detail, its length, frame, and the exact position of the actor in front of the background. It took 2 years and more than 5 different versions to obtain the final 800 drawings that were used during the shooting. Thus, split up into many levels, the scenes in Europa can sometimes consist of up to 15 different layers of images. And the technique, which demands that a scene be shot several times, allows surprising effects. The mixture of black and white and color, for instance. In order to connect the different levels, to make the scene seem only one, so that the audience won't notice the different layers, Von Trier has almost constantly created a bond between the foreground and background. In this scene, Barbara Sukova was first seen in black and white, filmed at an earlier occasion. She then appeared in front and in color to pursue her conversation with Jean-Marc Barr, who was really facing her this time. But let's watch the sequence once more. Barbara Sukova in black and white talks to Jean-Marc Barr in color, although they aren't together on the set. Their images are superimposed. Now the actors are really in front of one another, and both are in color. The connection between the background and the foreground is a fact, Barbara Sukova's character having united the two different levels. But finally, Jean-Marc Barr leaves the foreground and reappears behind in black and white. You really get the impression that there's only one image and that the complete scene was shot at the same time. Of course, the combinations of foreground and background, of black and white and color, aren't just technical feats of prowess. The image in color is full with emotion. Here, Jean-Marc Barr will pull the train's emergency brake. The first part of the shooting was done in Poland, where Von Trier only looked for the exteriors. It was an unusual situation, since this initial stage of the shooting took place in the absence of the actors. The crew was mainly Polish, and Von Trier and his Danish assistant stayed in the only building which could provide accommodation in the small village of Chojnia, the priests' living quarters. Apparently, there's no lack of extras. But today, the news is bad.
Ludzi też przywożą dodatkowo, jak wiemy, że bogatych i nie za starszych i nie ma komu decydować. No.
2 buses have just returned empty and the night shooting draws closer. It's Sunday and many of the Polish seem to have gotten lost on their way from church to the bar. The villagers will have to be replaced in the last minute by factory workers from the suburbs of the nearest big town, Stettin. Without the great supply of extras, tonight's impressing scene couldn't be shot. The buses finally provide the indispensable men and women who seem surprised to be there on the set. Today, the shooting takes place in a roundhouse, which will progressively be turned into a giant movie studio. All the scenes of Europa are shot at night. Edward Klozinski, director of photography in many of Andrzej Wajda's films, runs the lighting in these Polish sequences. During the time-consuming preparatives, Lars von Trier has remained confined in his mobile home, probably looking through tonight's scenes. He doesn't show up until the last moment, when the set is ready, in order to rectify the ultimate details before shooting. Suddenly, all the problems are gone. The scene is shot easily in one single take, and von Trier is already thinking of the next one. This scene requires a great deal more extras, and it must be perfectly organized.
Dobrze, teraz poproszę pierwszą grupę. Poproszę pierwszą grupę. Poproszę tutaj pierwszą grupę.
Since a railway car will be pulled out of a shed bare-handedly and in reality,
Pierwsza grupa zajmuje miejsca najbliżej tych
the
szyb.
women and children prepare.
Na siedząco i
They stretch the rope to estimate the strength that will be required for this mass of several tons to be moved. Nobody is sure that it really can be done.
Uwaga, proszę Państwa, pełna próba. Wychodzimy i ciągniemy, proszę bardzo.
But they succeed. The genuine pre-war railway car is rolling again. A few days later, the setting is the Choynya Cathedral, destroyed by the Russian army during the Second World War. Paradoxically, the same army now assists the Polish production by lighting up the vast monument with the help of powerful anti-aircraft spotlights. In front of the cathedral, Lars von Trier is preparing one of this evening's scenes. He asks Edward Klosinski to stand in the foreground, close to the camera, at the exact spot where Jean-Marc Barr will be in the studio. An assistant replaces Barbara Soukova.
And then, yes, please go. Okay.
Every conversation is held through an interpreter, as few of the Polish collaborators understand English or Danish.
At gate må ikke se Leo.
Some scenes will be shot inside the cathedral. The script says that Leo, the main character, should enter a church full of people at Christmas time, when big snowflakes are falling inside the roofless monument. Afterwards, Leo will get married in the same cathedral. Naturally, there isn't an inch of snow on the ground, and the weather will remain rather mild. Lars von Trier tells us that he has tried to recreate an atmosphere inspired by Alfred Hitchcock in an Andrei Tarkovsky setting. Finally, von Trier has imagined a shot from high up in the tower of the church during Leo's entrance.
Here they're going to do something, so we can have the camera zooming out of this window up there into the church.
Because of the exactitude imposed by the storyboard and the script, Von Trier follows the scenes during the takes thanks to a video screen showing the images that are being filmed. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning and the shooting is interrupted. The extras refuse to continue and want to go home. Most of them will start working in a few hours and hadn't been informed of the late shooting schedule by the Polish producers. Furthermore, an extra in Poland earns only the equivalent to $6 a day. You can easily understand why so many films are co-produced with Eastern Europe. Finally, the salaries are doubled and everyone gets back into their positions. In this scene, the extras watch Kate and Leo walk by. But since the actors are absent, a strange stand-in will replace the couple and indicate the exact direction of all gazes. A plastic cup.